Hey there, it's Mike. Thanks for checking out this video. And today is sort of going to be a little wrap up of the last art show that I did. As some of you may know, as a street photographer, I actually do some art shows and I sell some of my street images at art fairs. And I stay fairly local, and I'll kind of explain that. But I did do a video about this a few months ago. I will leave a link up there or down there or somewhere, and you can read overall just my general impressions about selling street photography at art shows. And I'll mention those probably maybe just in passing here a couple times, but there was a big art show here in Appleton where I live, my hometown. They've been doing it for, I believe, over 60 years, and I just started doing it a few years ago. And so I did it a couple years ago. I think this was my third or fourth year doing it. And so I sell, I would say 95% of my images there are street photography images. I do have one print rack of nature stuff, miscellaneous things like that. And the interesting thing was, it's a 2-day art show, and the first day is on Saturday. And Saturday morning, I think the first 5 images I sold were all from my nature rack. And I was just really kind of puzzled why this was happening. I mean, it was money and I wasn't complaining. I think the thing that was interesting out of the nature images that were selling in the beginning was that they were local. You know, my competitors almost at every art show, and I don't think this show is any different. I did take a lap around the park and look at other photographers' work. Everyone is selling these huge metal landscapes, and it's all stuff from this national park or whatever. And the images, even my nature images that were selling very early on Saturday, were all like local nature preserves and things like that. You know, a state park that's 10 miles away, things like that. I didn't sell anything, and I have some stuff from Florida and things like that. But anyway, so it was very curious. So eventually, you know, things got rolling on Saturday and Sunday, and you know, I was selling a lot more street images. So the things that are popular, and this may or may not help you, I can tell you from my experience, as I mentioned in my previous video, here were the top sellers. The one that typically in the last probably 2 years, no matter what show I do, the one that sells the most consistently, the one that I bring multiple copies of, is City Scene. It's this winter scene shot through a window. I sold it, I believe, 2 or 3 times on Saturday, 8x10 size, and then 5 times on Sunday, again 8x10 size. These are matted to 11x14, and that, again, that image just sells consistently. I will typically go to a big art show with at least 8 of those, 8x10s. Just always have spares. I have the biggest piece that I have on display is a huge like 16x20 matted to like 20x24 out in front of my display in my booth, and that one it does the job. I know it's probably not going to sell. It's the most expensive item I have, but it gets people to look in my print racks, and then that little one ends up selling. So that one sold at least 7 times in the 2 days. It's a winter shot, it's local, it's Appleton. The second shot that sold the most, which I believe it sold a total of 4 or 5 times, was this one called Snowy Walk. And this one, again, just like the first one, 2 things that it has in common. It's in Appleton, so it's local, and it's winter. And that one sold 4 or 5 times small, and then it was one of the 2 large framed prints that sold on Sunday. I only sold 2 large prints, framed 16x20 matted to, 11x14 matted to 16x20. This was one of them that sold on Sunday. The other one that sold big framed was this one. This one's called Headless. It's never sold before, small or big, but it's very intriguing. And people are just drawn to it, and they want to look and they want to figure out why the guy doesn't have a head, or does he have a head, or they look closer, and it's very intriguing. I have a lot of people that I get into very interesting discussions with about it. So that one also sold big and framed and large on Sunday. Well, what does it have in common with the other 2? It's in Appleton and it's winter, and there's just something about, you know, having these winter images, which nobody else at the art show has these kind of shots. They may have the occasional winter image, which is very rare, but to have something like this, you know, shot through a window, layered, street images, maybe has a person, you know, has a person in it that may be fairly small in the image. But winter and local, and that I have two things right away with these images that most people, I would say the vast 95 to 99% of the other photographers do not have. So I sold those. Those were the kind of the three biggies. I also have one that sells, you know, could sell anywhere from 2 to 5 times. I think I sold it about 3 or 4 times actually. So it did do pretty well. And it's this one of a bike, a part of a bike. It's a very nice rustic vintage image, nice color. It was taken behind a coffee shop in Green Bay actually, and it tends to do very well. So overall, I did actually have my best 2-day total ever at an art show. They had record attendance for the 2 days. The weather was fantastic. There was a little bit of off and on rain for about a half an hour on Saturday, but the turnout was fantastic. And because the art fair is in Appleton and I live in Appleton, and 80 to 90% of my images are from Appleton, I just draw a lot of local people who really like my stuff. And I think the thing that I was most pleased with, not that I made the most money I ever had in 2 days, though that was really, really nice, obviously, but I had at least three repeat customers. The 2 big frames that sold were people who had bought in big frames in the last couple years. And that's a huge, I love that, because it's people who like my style, have bought in something big and it's hanging in their living room or in their hallway, and then they buy another one to complement that. And that just really meant a lot. That makes me feel really good. I had an older woman who bought my book last year, and a couple prints, and this year she came by and just raved, and she ended up buying my second book, volume 2, and a couple more prints. And so it was really nice to see some repeat customers. I had people who came to visit me in my booth and did not buy anything, but told me, hey, that picture out front, or this picture here, I have that in my bathroom, or this is in my laundry room, I have this small one here and I really like it. And to see a lot of those returning customers was really nice. And then to have those 2 big ones sell as well. So that was fantastic. I had a really great show. Street photography can do well. Obviously you have to be careful about the images that you're printing. You know, if I look at the images that sold, obviously I have those biggies that normally do pretty well, but even if I look at some of the other street images that sold, you know, they're images you have to be careful with. You know, what is somebody going to put on a wall? And so you know, there's a lot of images in my second book that I would never print, and so they don't, you know, they're just not something that I envision someone putting on a wall. So you know, if you have street images that can kind of lean kind of on the art side, or you know, the people are not really identifiable, things like that, I think you can do well at art shows. I've been pleasantly surprised the last few years, I guess. The thing that helps me is I stick to my geographical area. You know, I don't really go beyond 30 minutes of where I am, and I would like to, at some point, I would love to go to Madison, Milwaukee and do one of these really big shows. But the fact that I'm local and I'm doing street photography, and I have a lot of black and whites, and people are really drawn to black and whites because nobody else is really doing those. And any other photographer there was really doing black and whites. And I have frame stuff that's matted. My stuff is just really, really unique in presentation and subject matter. And that definitely helps. So as a street photographer, depending on your style, what you're shooting, your subject matter, you can definitely do well at art fairs. It just depends on what you're selling, what the clientele is, how much money they have, how much traffic they're getting, things like that. So that's my update. I was extremely impressed. You know, those big sellers that normally sell came through again. They're winter and they're local and they're very unique, and that definitely helps my cause. I do have another big show coming up in about 3 weeks in Green Bay. I'll probably give you an update on that one too, but I tend to do end of July, end of August, and in September. I have 3 kind of biggies that I do, and then I'm kind of done for the year. But anyway, I'll have some links below for my 2 books on Amazon. Those pleasantly did well at the art shows. Sold a few of those. Check out my other links below as well. hit me up with any questions if you're considering art shows, things like that, or whatnot. But otherwise, keep hitting the streets, keep shooting. We'll talk to you soon with another video. Thanks. Bye-bye.